First upcycle that we're going to do are these brackets that I found in the scrap metal bin, and they are fantastic. The patina on them, the colors are absolutely amazing. I'm going to turn this into a shelf. I need one in my log home, so I found this piece of pine that's the perfect width and length that I want, and I'm going to really roughen this up. Because the brackets are so rustic looking, I want this piece of wood to look rustic too. So I've got out my chop saw and I'm just chunking up this piece of wood, cutting out hunks around the corners, anywhere where it would have naturally aged. You kind of have to just trust the process with this, and there's really no right or wrong way to do it. We just want to keep making it look distressed until we're going to be happy with it. This is also a scrap piece of wood that I got out of a burn pile, and I saved it because I knew one day I would be able to turn it into something beautiful again. So I'm so glad that I was able to save it, and now I can pair it with these two shelf brackets. And I'm just using my jigsaw to just chunk out here and there. I actually cut in some V's in the end, and now I'm going to get out a utility knife and just cut away here and there. I know this looks really awful and you're thinking, what in the heck is she doing to this piece of wood? But when it's all finished, you're gonna not believe the transformation of it. And make sure you're being really careful if you're using a little utility knife like this. And I've got my work gloves on and being really careful. I'm also going to take some scissors and pound holes here and there. You can get anything that's going to create some sort of texture you can use to create texture in this board. I'm using a hammer. I'm hammering around the edges where it would have naturally aged. And you can also, I'm going to make sure I'm doing the top and the bottom because you're going to be able to see both when it's hung up in my kitchen. And I am then going to take my scraper and I'm scraping from the top to the bottom, putting some ridges and grooves in this piece of wood. And I'm also going to take it out into my gravel driveway and I'm just stepping on it, and those little pebbles and rocks of gravel are going to create texture in this piece of wood. If you have any anxiety or frustration, this is a great way to get rid of it. And I also have this little steel disc wheel, and it's great for creating texture in wood too. And this works great on this piece of pine. Be really careful if you're using an instrument like this. Do not wear gloves and be very careful because it's very sharp. It's going very fast, and hang on to it really tight. This attaches to your drill just like a drill bit would. I'll put a link down below in the description to this product, and you can check it out if you want to try this technique. Now we're going to sand. This top of the board had some paint on it, and I want to get most of that off. So I'm using an 80 grit sandpaper on my hand sander, and I'm just going all over that board. I'm just going to soften those areas where I put those dings and nicks and grooves in, and it's going to look fabulous when it's all finished. Okay, now we're going to use some DIY stain. This is just acrylic paint and some warm water, and I usually do equal amounts of each depending on the project. I have a little rag. We're going to mix it together really well and then just wipe it on your project. And it's a affordable, non-toxic stain that you can mix into any color that you want. And it's going to soak into all those little areas that we created and make a really old piece of wood. And here is the finished result. I love it. I wasn't able to get all of that white paint off, but I think it just gives to that aged look. Now we're ready to seal it up. I'm going to use my polyacrylic spray sealer in a matte finish, and I'm also going to seal up those brackets so that I can not have that paint chip off anymore. I'm going to take them outside. We're going to spray both of them, and then we're going to screw them together. And here it is all finished and hung up in our log cabin, and I think it fits in really well. It's a great place to add a little bit of storage in my kitchen area, and what's even better is It was free. The scrap metal bin, I got the brackets, the piece of wood from the scrap wood pile. It's fantastic. Next upcycle is this chair that I found in the scrap metal bin. It's got a lot of layers of paint on it, but I think if I just scrape off the loose paint, I'm able to just spray paint over the whole thing and give it a new life again. So I'm just using my paint scraper, and anything that's loose is just going to scrape away. The base of the chair had a few dings and it was bent a little bit, but I think it just adds character to this piece because it is quite old. So just putting in a little bit of elbow grease into this project, I think it's going to be well worth it. Not quite sure what was on this chair originally, so I'm going to use my Trem Clad, and it's a paint and primer in one. And I had some glossy white that was left over in my stash, so this chair is transforming into a white metal chair. And it's a great addition to our patio at our log cabin. I'm just using it as a plant stand right now, but we can also take the plant off and someone can use it as a stool for an extra seating area. And again, free from the scrap metal bin. Another great place to find things like this is if you in your community once a year you're able to put things at the roadside. You can always find really great finds there too if you don't have a scrap metal bin that you have any access to. Next upcycle is this old toolbox. I've had this for a while. It's been in my shed, but I decided to pull it out and add it into my decor at my cabin. I just sprayed it with some engine enamel to give it a really hard coating and save that rust patina look. Put a plant on it. These are great plant holders and they have so much character. This might be one of my favorite upcycles that I've done in a long time. This was an actual plant stand. The paint had chipped off of it a little bit, but I'm just gonna use a scuff pad and I'm going to just chip away any of that loose paint. I don't think I'm gonna spray paint it. I kind of like the look of it, having it a little bit more rustic. And then what I'm gonna do, I had this old drawer that I found in the dump, and I'm just going to take that scuff pad again and clean up this old drawer, and we're gonna incorporate these two pieces together. I'm sure this drawer was originally probably from a dresser, and it looks like it was probably a really old one. So I'm glad when I was able to find this one drawer and upcycle it. I'm going to paint the inside with some of my homemade chalk paint just to seal it up a little bit. Now we're gonna glue that drawer to this plant stand, and I'm just using my E6000 and I'm just putting a liberal amount around that whole outside of that metal frame. And then I'm going to be able to put that dresser drawer on top of it and have it bond really well. I'm gonna set the dresser drawer down first, and then I'm gonna be able to center it better in the middle. And then once I have it exactly where I want it, I'm gonna get something really heavy and leave it overnight so I know that it's gonna bond really well. And I knew that bucket of spindles was gonna come in handy someday. It's nice and heavy and it's gonna keep everything secure and in place until tomorrow. And here is our finished upcycle. I love it, and of course everything was free, and I've created this little end table that has so much character. Added it onto our patio. Beside our patio set, you can set a drink here if you need to. I've added some candles and a plant stand. Just kind of think outside of the box when you find these things and see if there's two things that you can incorporate together to make something beautiful, and I think I've done this with this project. Next upcycle is this metal step ladder, and it's going to be perfect to put in my kitchen at the log home. It's really dirty. It just needs some TLC. It just needs to be cleaned up because it's really sturdy still. Nothing is bent or crooked. I'm going to take my scuff pad. I'm going to scuff off any loose paint, and then I'm going to scrub it with some soap and water, and then we'll be ready to spray paint it. I had some matte black spray paint. It's a paint and primer in one, and I'm just gonna put a couple coats on. I'm gonna spray the one coat liberally to cover it all, let it dry, and then I'm gonna put on a second coat. There's not very much in my home that I have that's brand new. I've pretty much upcycled everything that I have in my home. And this is another example of something that I got for free, but it's going to be really useful for me in the kitchen to reach those high spots. And it has some character. Now, you're probably saying, Deidre, why did you drag home that rusty old shovel? What in the heck are you going to do with that to make it look better and upcycle it? Well, wait until you see what I turn this into because it's really cute. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use my scuff pad and I'm going to take off any of that loose rust that's on the shovel. Now, if you don't use a primer on a surface that has rust on it, the rust will leach through. So I'm using a bin spray primer to completely cover this shovel, and that will guarantee that that rust is not going to come up through. Now I've made a custom napkin. I have a full tutorial on how to do this, and it's really easy, and it's a great way to decoupage on graphics to your projects. I've taken 1 ply of a napkin, attached it to a piece of computer paper, put it through my laser printer and printed on it. And now I've got a plastic sheet. I'm just laying that graphic down on that piece of plastic, dripping a little bit of water on it, making sure we're getting all of the bubbles and wrinkles out of it. And then I'm taking the edge of my scissors and just making a ragged edge around that graphic. It's going to help it blend into our project better. Now we're going to use our Mod Podge mat, and I'm going to put a liberal amount right where I want that graphic. Now this graphic is available in my Etsy store. If you're interested in trying a project like that, you can grab this graphic. I'll put the link to my Etsy store down below in the description. If you're a Graphic Club member over on Patreon, make sure to use your 70% off discount code. Or if you're a channel member here on YouTube, make sure you're using your 50% off coupon code. I'll put the link to both of those memberships down below in the description if you're interested in checking them out, because my Etsy store is full of fabulous graphics that you can use on all of your DIY projects. They're not copyrighted, so you can make a project and sell it without any worries. And you can save some money. I'm just going to take out any little bubbles or wrinkles that I got in that napkin, spread it out nice and smooth, and then we're going to seal this up with some engine enamel because I'm going to have this outside. And I have put this in my garden down at the cabin, and I think it looks really great, just nestled into my shrubs in my garden out front, and it was all made from junk. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. And if you love this one, I'm sure you're going to love either of these next two.